Look, Seth, the world is in contradiction because some claim that Trump is a killer who is going to destroy the planet. Okay, without any major contributions to what Donald Trump is doing. But I see that people don't point out the bad guys, and that's what's been happening with this type of government. So Iran has ruined lives for years for its women, for its girls. And so for those who do something, it's just like in Venezuela. For those who did something, who are creating change, they're the ones responsible for so much evil. They're the bad guy, the villain of the movie. Mind you, they're not the hero of the movie either. But give me your take. Welcome.
Well, first, thank you very much for having me on your show. Let me tell you something. We live in a very hypocritical society and a society that suffers from selective amnesia. People don't remember. In Argentina, the two attacks on the AMIA and the Israeli embassy, where so many people died, not necessarily Israelis, not necessarily Jews, everyone who was on the street. People have especially here in the United States, I've heard Tucker Carlson and many people talking about Trump and saying that Israel brainwashed the United States, forced them into this war, which isn't theirs. I remember the 250 Marines who died in the barracks in Beirut in the 80s. I also remember when Iran kidnapped the staff of the United States Embassy in Iran. I also remember when there were a lot of terrorist attacks around the world in which we could always see the hand of Iran. I remember that if you have a colleague, a relative, someone who fought in the Iraq war or the Afghanistan war and came back without a leg, without an arm, without an eye, blind, all those bombs, they learned to make them because the Iranians explained to them how to make them because they are the masters of terrorism. And now you're telling me, poor people of Iran, I don't remember. That's why I'm telling you how very, very flexible the morals of people are who now defend the Iranian regime and defend a war against them. Not so long ago, in fact, just earlier this very year, they killed almost 40,000 Iranians, people from their own country, their own citizens. So now I want to ask you, would you really allow those very same people to possess nuclear weapons?
No.
Would you allow those people to suddenly have missiles or ballistic missiles that could reach the United States? Do you think they wouldn't use them because they don't care about killing 40,000 of their own citizens? What do they care what happens to you or what happens to me or what happens to anyone in the world?
That's love for the Western world. And look, they don't even keep their word. Erica Moda writes here, I know she's been following. The ceasefire is not being honored. Israel is attacking Iran and vice versa. I think this has been a white flag, but a dirty one, right? These people won't comply.
Let me explain to you what's happening. I had the privilege of serving 10 years in the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, mostly in Gaza, and I fought in two wars, which were heavily influenced by Hamas and Hezbollah, which are direct offspring of Iran, sponsored, financed, trained in Iran. And I can tell you that unfortunately we live in a world that I call a world of several dimensions. And human beings, unfortunately, when you tell them how bad these people can be, how genocidal they can be, they don't believe it because they haven't lived it. I remember when I was coming here, and at first, when I wasn't a citizen yet, I was just another immigrant. They always asked me, and they still ask me, Zeev, how are you doing today? I say, well, I'm living the American dream, and like, you're very funny. How funny? Hey, I don't know. Nobody has tried to kill me today. I haven't had to wait in line for gas either. I can say whatever I want and nobody cares. That's what makes this country great. So the problem with Americans, and especially with people who sometimes complain, like they complain about this government and any other government, is that they haven't lived abroad. They haven't lived through a war. They haven't lived through real hatred, and hatred simply because you exist. I've been able to see the hatred in their eyes, in a person who teaches their children that from a young age that you have to go out and kill a Jew, or that Israel is the great, Israel is a demon and the United States is the great Satan, and people think it's not about them. And the reality is that all of us are in that package, everyone, because suddenly if you're not Muslim, you're an infidel, and you simply deserve, if not to die or convert, you deserve to be a slave. That in Syria and in Iraq, ISIS established slavery again because it says so in the Quran. If you're an infidel, you can be anyone's property. How can you negotiate with someone who is thinking as if they were in the 14th century? How do you justify the president of the United States not doing what he's doing? Can you imagine the Iranians? Can you imagine those people really having a nuclear weapon?
Well, look, we see it with Muslims in Europe, how because it's also a totally different culture from ours. We could say that among religions there isn't one better than another, but we see that there women have no value, girls have no value, human beings have no value. What we're seeing on social media, the beatings, these people don't like us just because of the fact that